Player housing. Let's talk about it. What are we actually doing with it? Is it providing us with a service in some way, or is it just decorating for nothing? What makes it worth using? Years ago, a lot of MMORPGs started introducing player housing, and a lot of them had a lot of different aspects to them. Some of the ideas were great, a lot of the ideas were shit. Some of them started out where you could rent a small loft or apartment for 10 silver a week. Some of them came out with the idea of 1 gold per day. I guess it just depends on how much currency you're actually earning inside the game you're playing. But the fact of the matter is that over the years, player housing has devolved itself into just a cash shop nightmare. We're going to talk about a lot of the MMORPGs out there today that actually have cash shops. What are the upsides? What are the downsides? And what do we think should player housing actually be about? Should it be more about the players, or should it be more about just the place you can go to log your character out in? We're going to get into it, but real quick, please don't forget to drop a like on this video, and remember to join me several times per week for more game-related content. I'd like to give a shout out to everyone helping support and grow this channel, either by subscribing for free or on Patreon for just $1.50 per month. Thank you so much. Alright guys, so when we start talking about player housing, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Is it the fact that it's an immersive place where you can go and feel calm, a place you can go to relax? Or does it mean a lot more to you than that? What does it do for you as far as convenience? To you, and not only to you as the player, but also the people that visit your player housing. How is it convenient to them? What is it that makes the player housing worth using? What does it do for you that no place else in the game that you're trying to play can do for you? What makes you want to go to your player housing? Another thing is does the player have to have its own private island? Or can it just be a small loft or 2-bedroom apartment? Why do some MMORPGs insist on giving you this gigantic, full level area that you'd have to decorate to try and make it different than the other guy that has the same private island you do? Can a small 2-bedroom apartment that you access from an alleyway in the slums be just as interesting to a player as a gigantic mansion on the outskirts of town that takes 5 men and a small boy to decorate? I also want to talk about briefly, what do we want to put in our player housing? Is it stuff that you buy off the cash shop for $1 or $15 or $30 or $100? Or is it stuff that you make with a crafter? Say there's a furniture maker or some kind of carpenter skill set that allows you to make items that you're allowed to not only put in your own house, but perhaps sell to other players. And maybe you can make it so that those players can come to your house, take a look around, buy one of those items and take it home and put it in their house. Perhaps you're a trophy hunter. Maybe you're the type of adventurer that wants to go out and slay big dragons, bring their head homes and hang them on the wall. Maybe you're an achievement hunter. Maybe when you get an achievement in the game that you're playing, it gives you an item that you can then display on a nice table that perhaps you built, that players can come by and say, oh yeah, wow, you got that achievement done. Congratulations. And does the game you're playing offer enough items for you to actually decorate your house fully? Or does your house kind of look like everybody else's house that is just has things put in different positions within the house? Does the game actually make enough items available to you to make it your own place that people can tell you put your own twist on it? Alright guys, today I want to use Everquest 2 as an example of what to do and what not to do as far as player housing is involved. Because in my personal opinion, Everquest 2 probably has, to this day, one of the best player housings in the MMORPG category. And one of the reasons for that is because Everquest 2, right from the get-go, I mean, day one that it came out, had player housing in the game. It was right on point of where they thought it needed to be. Look at all those discs to download this game. Look at how ridiculous that is. It took how many is there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 different CDs to download EverQuest 2 back in the day. When it first came out. That's hilarious. Alright, so from day one, you log into EverQuest 2. You could buy a small loft or 1 2-bedroom apartment for 10 silver a week, guys. And with that 10 silver a week came some pretty cool stuff that you could do. First thing I want to talk about is decorating, obviously. Walls, floors, lightings, and rugs. Alright, so in EverQuest 2, you would zone into your house and people could just click on the door of where you live. Each door kind of had its own address, so to speak. And you could click on it and you could click on visit and it would give you a directory of every character name in the whole server that had their player housing set up at that address. You could just click visit, and if they had it set to the where you could visit, it would just zone you right in. Now, walls, floors, lighting, and rugs. So the walls you could interact with. And when you interacted with the walls, it had a price point system of what you could decorate the walls with. Whether it would be cement, whether it would be stucco or sheetrock or different kinds of woods, whatever it would be. They were all listed by price, and then depending on which one you like the best, you could just pay for it with your silver or gold right there on the spot. The floors were very much the same way. There was different types of flooring. Depending on which one you liked, you could just click on it and go ahead and purchase it. Now the lighting and the rugs and stuff like that was different. All of the lighting, there was 2 ways of getting it. Or actually 3 ways, actually. The first way was there was very simple vendors around the world where you could buy very simple lighting for your house, like scones, for instance. And they would be the bottom tier, the very crappiest looking ones, but at least you could have some lighting in your house. And then the second way you could get it is to start a crafting skill that would allow you to build items inside your house. For instance, you could be a carpenter, you could go to the local crafting area, or you could set up a carpentry station in your house itself, and you could go out and get a bunch of lumber, go out and get a bunch of everything else you needed to craft those items, and then you could just set up shop right inside your house crafting those items. So lighting, you could craft big chandeliers that hung from your ceilings. You could craft lamps that set on the ground itself. You could hang lamps on the walls. There were so many different things you could do. It was awesome. Now for furniture, pictures, and stuff like that, obviously carpenter again would craft most of the furniture, but you could buy furniture like tables and chairs and stuff from various vendors around the world. But the coolest thing about a lot of the furniture and aspects of the furniture was that a lot of them had status points, is what I'm looking for here. A certain amount of status, like say the chair has 100 status, and then you craft a really nice chair, it has 500 status. And you craft a very simple table, it has 10 status, but then later on you're crafting and it has 1,000 status for this one table. And what the status would do is it would allow you to go buy a bigger house later on in a better part of town, which had a gold price plus a status price involved in the cost itself. So all of the furniture that you had, that you crafted yourself, you could put it down in your house, and it would reduce the status cost on how much the house cost itself. Not only that, there were certain merchants throughout the game that sold really high status items. And some of these items you could actually use status points to buy these items to have these really, really nice items inside your house. And people would go, "Oh, that's really awesome. Where did you get that?" "Oh, I got that at the status vendor. It took me like 3 weeks to grind the status to get that one item." And I thought that was really cool aspect of the game. It gave players a way to work their way up to get the really nice items for their house from certain vendors. As far as pets go, there was a lot of different pets in the game as well. Some of the pets, believe it or not, dropped from just going out and grinding mobs in certain dungeons or whatnot, and then you could get the pets and you could sell them on the auction house, or you could display them in your house, and they would actually move around on the floors and over furniture and stuff like that. It was really cool, neat thing to see. And you could interact with the pets in your house and make them fall asleep or do tricks or whatever you wanted to do, stuff like that. And then they did have certain portals you could put in your house, obviously, that would take you large distances across the map of Everquest to go visit certain dungeons and stuff that you could wanted to go visit. And your friends could all come to your house and use that portal as well. You could group up in a party, take the portal, and be there within a matter of seconds, versus having to travel clear across the entire world, go through 3 different druid rings, and yada yada yada. And then, as far as the items themselves, one of the really cool features of the game is that not all of the characters in the game were the same size. You had some characters that were really big and tall, and some characters like gnomes that were really short, and you needed to scale up and down the sizes of the furniture to fit different character sizes, and they allowed you to do that. As a matter of fact, you could buy like a little ship, scale it up all the way as big as it could possibly go, and then build your house, your living quarters on the ship, which I thought was really cool. So if you had a gnome buddy that was coming over, you could have a little teeny chair that could fit him. If you had an ogre or a troll that was coming by to visit, you could have a big chair for that he could sit in, stuff like that. Alright, so the next point I want, or a number 2 or whatever, that I want to point out here is the player interaction within the house itself. How do you get players from all over the world to want to come to your house and visit you and give you kind of a reason to want to make your house nice in the first place? Well, again, EverQuest 2 did a really great job of how to do this for players. And the way they did that is the market system. Now, every single player in EverQuest 2 could have a market board that they could stick on their wall or wherever they, on a piece of furniture, wherever they wanted to do. Players could come in the house, interact with their market board, and buy things from that player. Now, there was an auction house also outside. In every major city there's an auction house. But the thing about an auction house is that they charged a large tax price when you buy the item, making you pay more for the item itself, like 10%, 15% more. The cool thing about the auction house is that it would tell you where the player lived in the game and the address, obviously. And if you go buy it from the person itself, it would take the 10 or 15% tax off of the price of the item, giving other players the want and need to go visit you in your house, buy it from you to get the better price, which then in turn made them look around your house wondering, "Ooh, what's he got up here? What's he got in this room? What's upstairs? What's in the basement?" You could set up really cool things that you could make it haunted looking maybe. There's a lot of different things you could do with the decorating, which was a really cool thing, because you knew that if you got items people wanted to buy and they charged enough to where it was worth it for them to go visit your house, that you could set it up so that they would be interested to go look around, which is a really great idea. All right, the next thing I want to talk about real quick is the convenience of where your house is at. Do you think you should have to pay more for the convenience of having a house, say, next to close to the auction house? Do you think you should have the convenience of paying for a house that's in the upscale part of town versus an alleyway? Everquest 2 did have this in the game. For instance, when you first start out, you'd start out in an area. If you were in Freeport, for instance, you would start out on, on Temple Street, or you would start out on the Long Shadow Alley or something like that. And they had the really simple housing in those beginner starter areas of the game for the low level players who could pay 10 silver a week to have those houses. Now, as you get closer to the inner part of the city and you start having the bigger mansions, the 4 or 5 bedroom houses, or the clan halls, which we're not going to actually touch on today, that's a whole nother video, because the clan halls were huge and extravagant, and it's the type of place where 100 different players could make it what they wanted to make it. So that was a really another cool aspect of the game. But today we're going to stick to the player housing itself. In the nicer parts of town, like I said, the gold cost plus the status itself let you buy houses and bigger houses in nicer areas of town, which I thought was really cool. Because, as your character progresses, starts to have more money, you want to have nicer things. So that gave you, the option to do that. One other thing I just want to touch on as we get towards the end of this video, of course, is how cash shops in today's MMORPGs are ruining, at least in my opinion, are ruining the player house experience for everyone. I'll give you a really good example of this is Black Desert Online. In Black Desert Online, you have player housing in each city. It's instanced. There's nothing wrong with that. However, in Black Desert Online, the only way to get good house items is to buy them on the cash shop. Now, what's wrong with this? Well, in itself, if somebody wants to pay for a nice item on the cash shop, I don't see a problem with it. Where the problem comes in is that in Black Desert Online and other MMOs, the person with the highest status house gets put on a top of the list, which makes people want to compete to see who has the nicest house in that specific spot. And the items with the most status points to get your house in the number 1, 2, or 3 spot are all found on the cash shop. So, of course, they are milking players to visit the cash shop and want to get the ranking number 1 house to get certain things available to them in the game that the other players don't have available to them in the game, because they have the number 1 ranking house, which makes your game pay to win. When you offer something, it doesn't matter what it is in the game, for being able to buy things on the cash shop to then get certain things in the game that other people can't get, that's pay to win. And so when you would log in to players' player housings in Black Desert, you'd notice that as soon as you zone in to the number 1, number 2, or number 3 ranking house in that specific exact spot in that city, and there's probably 20 different places in that city you could go instance into a house, but each one of those has someone competing to have the number 1 ranked house. So as you zone into it, the first thing that you will notice is that you can't even walk around, because the guy has so much cash shop stuff bought and put into the 1 or 2 bedrooms allowed in that specific player housing that the guy can't even walk around, which is completely ridiculous. I mean, it's like the only reason that guy even visits his house is to buy more stuff off the cash shop that he can then go into his house, zone in, and say, I still have 1 centimeter left on this one piece of wall to hang something so I can have the number 1 ranked house, instanced house, which is just completely stupid. And, you know, the problem with this is that more and more MMORPGs and video game manufacturers, developers around the world are seeing these type of things, seeing how they can charge players millions and millions of dollars, and saying to themselves, well, if they want to have a nice house, I guess they'll just have to pay for it. And to be honest with you, this is not something that EverQuest 2 didn't start doing, because they did. They didn't change the way the player housing worked, the way player housing interacted with the other players or anything like that. But what they did do many years ago is introduce a token into the game that lets people put the token on the auction house, and people can buy the token for silver. It's called a chrono in EverQuest 2. In World of Warcraft, it's called the WoW token. Every other MMO out there, almost, they have some kind of token like this. And what I like to call the token is the token to when is your MMO gonna shut down. Because every single game that introduces one of these kinds of tokens over the next 2 years loses half of their player base. And it's kind of ridiculous, because not only do they completely ruin the economy of the game, the first thing that happens, obviously, is that the token totally destroys the market house. And that's exactly what happened to the player housing in EverQuest 2, and why it's almost completely pointless now. If a player can buy a chrono for $10 or $15, or depending on what game you're playing, it's called something else, then put it on the auction house and sell it for, 50,000 gold or whatever, why are they going to care about, it just dilutes the money system so badly that paying a gold or two or 5 gold or 10 gold or 100 gold or 1,000 gold doesn't make any difference to that player. Because why are they going to take the time to search for somebody's address, go to that address, buy the item from that player, when they could just pay 5 more gold for the item, because they have 50,000 more gold than they should actually have in the game? It just makes it pointless. And so not only player housing suffers, but everything else suffers as well. That's the only thing I'm trying to say here, giving that example. So that is something on the not to do list. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, and this subject means a lot to me, is because this year, in the second half of 2021, we're seeing a ton of new MMORPGs developed, and most of them are going to have player housing. Now, the real question is, are they going to make their player housing pay to play? Or are they going to make it 10 silver a week and actually make it in a way that's worth having the players want to take the time to make their player housing awesome? That's really all I got for today, guys. I want to say thank you to all of you out there who are already subscribed to the channel. And if you're not already subscribed, please consider doing so for more game-related content several times per week. I want to say thank you very much. My name's Roger, and I'll see you on the next adventure. Take care of yourself, everyone.